Right, right. Welcome to the Wealth and Wellness Podcast. Again, we're still here to upgrade the upset. I am here with my co-host, Natrice Spicer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great, and also I'm doing, I'm
Right,
managing, and I'm ready for 2026.
right, right. It is right around the corner. And so, we got the vision board parties are starting to pop up on the timeline, the, reflections on 2025, setting intentions and goals for 2026. And so I know that those things are definitely intriguing, and there's an importance to rest. I know. I feel like one thing you've been mentioning in some of your posts recently is just the importance of just resting and some. How has that been on your end? Kind of pulling that together and giving yourself that space.
On my end, it really hasn't been in full transparency. I love that. I think I may be so poignant with my words that you guys just always take it as eloquence, but really it has been like being mid-air, amazingly latched on to God's lapel without a strap, a grip, a seatbelt, or anything. And we've been launched 50 million miles in the air for
Mhm.
14 months without water, a break, a pit stop, rest, or anything. And so what sounds like I'm taking these really amazing breaks of sleep is really just surrender. It has been a season of surrender. Now, I will say in that, which is where I guess you guys pull the positive, in that I have been very mindful of self-care, very mindful of the need to stop or taking the control that I can about eliminating certain things and activities and being willing to pivot so that I have more time to like move slower this year. I've moved much slower intentionally than any other
Right,
year, but I think sometimes unbeknownst to me and often not within my desires, it was because I was too busy surrendering. It was just like, I can't fight this tide.
right,
This part of the ocean is a high wave, and trying to fight it for the sake of having speed is just not going to keep me on the surfboard. Right.
right,
So I'm just going to lay here on this board, and I'm going to do, because that's the one choice that I could make, right? Oftentimes
right.
we learn through force, not choice. And
Hmm.
I'm always adamant about self-care, balance, and rest. But I think this year really was a testament of how sometimes when you don't have the answer, or when you're so busy figuring things out, or when you feel frustrated or at these really high and low moments, the best thing to do is just pause. The
Right.
best thing to do is just pause and wait um, to come back to the middle. And so I think that's the most honest way that I could put it, is like I've been pausing a lot um, out of willingness to reach the middle and out of obedience to when I could feel that it was time to surrender, spiritually, physically. You know, our spirits tell us, faith tells us, our bodies will tell us, your body will give you signals that you
Right.
can't ignore, right?
Right.
And then mentally, just to empty my cup so that I can be prepared for the fullness instead of just always being on go.
Yeah. No, that's super real. That's super real. I'm definitely recognizing that, surrender, I want to say obedience, I want to say, some of these terms are definitely forms of resting, forms of giving ourselves a break, because especially if we feel like it's all on us, it's all on our effort, it's all on our ability to do as much as we wanted to do or plan to do, it definitely can feel exhausting. I'm also thinking about delegation, right? I'm also thinking, the importance of involving other folks, connecting with other folks, giving people their chance to do the things that they love to do. Say, listen, can you take this off my hands, because this is that much more difficult if I'm trying to do it all by myself. But I also think about how important it is to do that in the vein of expanding, and how important it is to do that because we can only do so much in our own power, right? We can only uh, handle so much. In to your point earlier, that's not even mentioning some of the things that we're running into on the outside that are making our journeys more difficult, because life isn't just like this vacuum and we're just trying to take care of things. Things are happening around us all the time. And so we have all these things to try to carry along with our business. And so it is definitely wise for us to involve other folks, connect with other folks, again, pay for some of those services to just allow us to breathe a little bit easier, because it is definitely a lot to just live, but then having your own business too is a whole other level of it. But to that point, I did want to bring up some of the most current events that have, one, been happening here in the Bay Area, things that are catching people's attention. One thing that I saw most recently today is around the surveillance cameras and the fight that we're having here in Oakland around increased surveillance cameras, and how people are feeling about that. And then also the most recent, um, the I want to say assassination, but we say the murder of Coach John Beam, as well
Yeah.
as the murder of the social worker in San Francisco by one of the patients. And this is, coupled with another article that I read on, found out about on, I think it's Berkeley Scanner is the name of their publication, but it was a kid that was stabbed in the face by just someone passing by, someone, not in their best mental state, and stabbed them with a pin in the face. Now, our kid actually goes to Berkeley High. So this is part of the reason why it matters. One, he's 14 as well. He's standing at the bus stop, and when this happened, and so just to know about some of the dangers that our kids can run into just by going to and from school, just again brings increased alarm. But honestly, the issue at work matters too when it comes to what happened in San Francisco, because my wife actually works at Sutter. So she actually works at a hospital herself. So all this stuff is hitting us. And then, of course, I went to Skyline, Coach Beam coached at Skyline, and so forth. My brother went to Laney. I did a couple classes at Laney as well. And so all this is just hitting us. And, it has all these feelings, implications, concerns, and so forth. And so wanted to check in with you and like how you've processed some of the things that you've seen most recently, as well as just again how it's all been hitting me left and right in the last month or so.
Yeah. First and foremost, just my condolences to all the people directly affected, and just prayers and well wishes to everyone indirectly affected, or who's seen the news, who knows about it, who had personal or similar interactions in these types of spaces. And for all of us, just as humans, having to be in the world, right? I often tell people that I'm really grateful I get to be incubated in whatever space I choose by being a solopreneur, because most of my work happens behind the keyboard. And even when I'm out public speaking or facilitating in person, it's very targeted spaces, right? And I'm super duper thankful for that, because I know there's just a risk having to go outside every day. Just going outside to school, going outside to work is unfortunately a risk that I think we don't discuss enough. And so for me, a big part of how I'm dealing with just hearing about this stuff and being concerned about people is let's go back to thing one, right? When we talk about surrender and pausing, when I logged off, right?
Right.
And so a big part of that was disengaging from always watching the news. Now I catch the daily news, I watch the recaps, I'll scroll and look for a newspaper so that I can read, which I love to read the news because it has more of a controlled feel. When you have tonation and visuals to your information, it adds another layer of emotional attachment that I just don't think we're being honest with ourselves about how it computes into our brains. And about the bandwidth that we have to be taking all of this in. Like it's sad season, right? seasonal anxiety, seasonal depression season.
Mhm.
And a lot of people struggle with things that we normalize, partly because it just feels good, and partly because you hear it enough, you think, oh, that's just the way life is. But for me, it's really important to have a healthy balance of being tapped in with the world and also guarding my spirit, guarding my mind, guarding my heart. And so I've tapped in, I've read articles, I check out what's going on. But again, I try not to always be on audio news or visual news because of the layers of emotion and manipulation that take
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Also, because when you're
Mm.
tapped in, you see it repeatedly. So if you're a person who is TV savvy, or you watch on your phone, you're seeing that repeatedly because
Mhm.
algorithms,
Which
right?
is
Because timing.
mhm.
And then it just becomes a thing that's getting embedded into your brain, and you miss the opportunity to hear about the local community garden who fed a school. You miss the opportunity to
Mm.
hear about the turkey giveaway that went really well. And I just think it's important for all of us to have a healthy balance of how we take things in and also how we personalize and absorb things. Not to say that we should be dismissive or have a dissonance or be on airplane mode, but I can't let everything connect back to my daily life. I
Yeah.
just can't. I'd be scared to go outside, to live, to have family members pursue dreams. Like, you know,
That's very real.
so
That's very real.
I focus on balance. Like I focus on balance, and I focus on just being very mindful about how I take all this stuff in, because
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And we already want to do so much as entrepreneurs, as well, I'll say as community driven entrepreneurs, because people selling hair ain't worried. But
But
that's a whole different, it's a whole different
that's
mindset. But
real.
community driven, social justice driven entrepreneurs, focused entrepreneurs, um, we're already taking in so much, right?
Yeah.
That's why we do this work, is because something is pulling at our heartstrings to help humanity. And it
Right.
just becomes overwhelming to always be
Right.
on intake mode.
Right. Right. I'm thinking a lot about what you were just saying, and part of me is like, I got to take some notes because I'm like, oh man, that's hitting me in so many different ways. One of the things that it's bringing to mind for me is how this whole thing going on with Netflix purchasing Warner Brothers,
Oh
and
gosh.
so what's interesting rather about this whole situation is that um, Netflix got the deal. Paramount, I want to say it's Sky something. I want to say Skydance, but I could be wrong. Made a counter offer about a week or two later. That is, they call it a hostile offer because it's like all this money. It's more money than Netflix is offering, but it's after the deal has already been published, and it's like, no, we still want a piece of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, what I'm recognizing about the Netflix stock is that the Netflix stock is still going down. And in not every, but in some of these instances, when something happens, I'm thinking, oh, like this is going to send Netflix stock up because Warner Brothers just rejected Paramount's counter
Offer.
bid,
Mm-hmm.
and so people are recognizing not only are they rejecting that bid, but they're affirming like this is why we went with Netflix. We like what they can do. We like what they're about. We like what they offered us. And so we think that this is a great deal. And while this is happening on the news, I'm recognizing that Warner Brothers stock is going up, but Netflix stock is still going down. And I'm just like shocked because, to your point, you mentioned the word manipulation, where I'm wondering about how some things that are on the news to influence the market, which honestly is something that I haven't thought a whole lot about because of the folks that I listen to about the marketing stuff. They honestly focus a lot just on the company. Like, let's talk about the business. Let's talk about what they got going on. Let's talk about their CEO. Let's talk about what new products they have. That's what's most important. But in this instance, And I brought this up in a recent conversation I had. It's reminding me of what happened with Cracker Barrel and how Cracker Barrel got changed their logo. And all these folks were like, absolutely not. We want that white man on that. We want that white man on that logo, and we'll keep that white man on that logo. But it had nothing to do with how the business was going. But it had everything to do with how the shareholders were like, yo, this is how we feel. And we will use our money as an opportunity to show you how we feel about the changes that have been made. And so it's reminding me possibly of how that's impacting how Netflix stock is doing currently. But all that to say is that it does bring in this new element of how much the news, how much the shareholders' feelings and opinions actually impact the market more than at times, more than the earnings call. You know, Netflix had a recent stock split. Like all these things go, oh, like take advantage of this opportunity. And people are like, we don't care. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? They just bought one of these big companies. They are like the future and the present of movies and streaming and so forth. And they're like, we said what we said. So I am really taken aback by that. But even to, or not, but it's so, I'm just acknowledging the media's impact on us. I'm also acknowledging, I've been thinking about this a lot this last couple of weeks because, you know, on Facebook, you have the feature where you can click the friends tab. So you actually see what people you know are actually posting. But the default now is all the viral content, right? The big groups and the big names, all the stuff that's got thousands and hundreds of thousands of views. And you have to actively look for and discipline yourself to go, I want to know what my friends are doing. And it's a way by which we are being pulled into something that honestly we may not even be interested in, but they're saying you might be. And so we're going to give you the most funny, we're going to give you the most sexy, we're going to give you the most weird images and see if you like it. And we might actually distract you from whatever you have going on for the moment because we got the viral stuff, right? And we're going to just flood your timeline with the viral stuff. And so that has gotten my attention and reminded me of how there are some things in our lives that if we don't intentionally put it there, somebody's going to move it a little further away from us so that we don't even get to it. Or it makes it harder for us to get to it because now, yeah, you have to click this button and actually to see that. And so that's definitely been hitting me. And I'm sure that you've seen that new feature on Facebook too. And I'm like, that is not fair.
I mean, the needle's always being moved, even when we're talking about local news and seeing, you know, some of these really recent unfortunate events. Part of that is like we're seeing it because they are data tracking, right? The newscast themselves, the news networks themselves are utilizing data, listener, viewer, reader engagement variances to better understand how to serve, quote unquote, their core audience. Now, core audience computes two ways. Core audience being the people who most want to utilize us for this research, but core audience also means the people who we most want to stay tuned in and we want to do more of what they've seen so that we can get more of their time and attention. And so the needle's always being moved. And I think that even correlates to Netflix and some of the ranges in the stock valuation. I mean, I believe they're set to acquire CNN as a part of this acquisition, right? Do we really want the same people who are responsible for our beloved Stranger Things to be the same people who have dictation over what is aired for national news, right? And so this is just like some of the ideology that people are using. Also, we're in a time of quick, fast microwave society. Everybody wants everything quick. And people are hyper socially empowered. And that's not necessarily real power. but it is real power because it's something that anybody can access. If you have Wi-Fi, you can have a piece of digital power. You can participate in the strategy, the game, or the tug and pull to say, I'm going to be a part of moving the needle to the left or the right. And so when you talk about individuals being very adamant about things that don't necessarily make great fiscal sense or social or moral sense, like there's a lot of things people support online or make viral online that really is a distraction from helping humanity. It's really a distraction from operating the nation in a way that moves us forward. But because people can do that basically for free, because you can sit at the library and have Wi-Fi. You don't have to have your phone active with a plan. If you just have a phone, like even if it's an Obama phone, you can go to a library and have Wi-Fi. So you've got a free phone, free Wi-Fi, but you're now in a place of power. And people are taking that seriously in this day and age. I think that where we have a lot of connectivity and power is to still reach people in other ways offline. I think that there is going to be something coming down the pipeline that can strongly compete with the metaverse. And I think it'll compete because it is going to be hyper focused on organic connectivity. And I'm calling that out there. So when it comes and it blows, just know as soon as they give their IPO, I'm going to get some. Hopefully I can find this clip later and tell them, like, I bet on you before you knew who you were. Because I do think that there's going to be an entity that will heavily compete with algorithm mania. I think we're looking at 2020, late 2026 to 2028. This is going to happen because the blow up hasn't come yet, but there is going to be a fallout from the hyper algorithm, hyper social media movement. And things will shift. But right now we're in a time where we're still realizing how damaging it can be to rely solely on popularity, solely on what's presented in the media, and solely on people in places of power. And one example of that is the whole Did He Do It documentary fallout. I mean, we're seeing in real time how what we've been privy to isn't always the full story. How the real life conversations, stories, and experiences matter so much more than what's shown on the screen, and how powerful media can be. We're seeing it in real time, and this is just the beginning. This is why they claim there's no Epstein. This is why they've tried to block the files, because I mean, I'm a little bit of a conspiracist, and I personally think he's somewhere tucked off. That's just me. I digress. We're just now seeing the age of the fallout. And so, you know, I think a large part of it is people as a society, we joke and make things a tagline, but it really is true. We don't take nothing serious.
No, that's real.
It's coming to a head quickly, as we see now. I mean, you know, 100 civil suits later, 50 months later, and decades of being misled by music. I mean, we're finding out that some of the hits that we loved weren't even created the way we thought, right? Like,
right.
You know, and this is
that whole thing was, it's been a lot. It's definitely been, by some means, traumatic to watch that and to like come to terms with some of the things that we were finding out. I brought this up when Straight Outta Compton came out. I said it literally felt like going to a family reunion of sorts and hearing stories from family members about what was going on when you were watching this video and that video, and you liked that song, you got that album, and this is all that was really going on, because Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, the Dog Pound, Eazy-E, for all intents and purposes, were like really connected to us, you know, when we were that little. And so to hear the whole story, it's like, what? Like that's like family almost. Like we know all about what's going on. We were, you know, we were singing the songs. I remember when they came out with not Straight Outta Compton, but the one that Eazy-E did in response to Dr. Dre. And I remember loving it, because Real Compton City G's. I remember loving it, but also being like, why are you mad at Dr. Dre? Like, I'm literally 10 years old, right? I'm probably 9, being like, I love this song, but like, y'all were cool, like, in the last. And so I'm not getting, the fallout, everything that happened with Ice Cube. It's all like this mystery. But to that point, there is a need for clarity, and the fake news is so real that it's so dangerous. And I know that it's come up in some conversations with in political spaces, that those clips can literally really shift opinion about certain people because they are out there, and I don't know who's making them, but they get a lot of attention. And they're every once in a while on Facebook, I need to go and straighten this out a little bit because I'll see a post about an athlete, about something that someone said, and it has no source, it has no background, it has no backing, but it looks like a news article. And so you got thousands of people being like, I knew it. You got literally thousands of people commenting and going and giving their thoughts about how he said this or how she said this. And I'm like, y'all aren't even checking. Like, no one said, where did this come from? Who's the source? It just has the bold letters, has all the right colors, has a small font. Sometimes it looks like a Twitter post, but it's not a Twitter post. But they have all the markings of a Twitter post. And I'm like, yo, like we are being fooled with a lot of the things that we're receiving. However, very few people are really challenging it. Rather, you have people on both sides making more fake news and more little articles that look real, but they're not, and they aren't based in facts. And they're just saying, well, if that's how they're playing, we kind of need to play the same way in order to get similar numbers. And I'm like, yeah, to your point, this is getting really out of hand.
But I don't think, okay, so here's my debate about that is I don't think that we're being fooled, because fooled is when something is happening under the guise of one thing and you are being intentionally misled or not being told, or you just don't know. Neither of those is the case for the way that people engage social media, the news, posts, clippings, or use combative measures or copycat or similar measures and tactics to generate money. What's happening is we are being conditioned. We're not being fooled because people know. I think at this point, people know. This is like when racism had been around for a while, long enough for people to know it existed, but they chose conditioning over destruction of the construct. And so right now, I just think we're being conditioned to go along. And a lot of it is because people misunderstand, and I'm going to use your phrase right behind you, woke, not broke. People misunderstand what it means to be not broke in this country right now today. A lot of people think that means being rich. And being rich doesn't mean not broke. I hope this hits somebody in the forehead because woke is not broke. Being in a position where you have control of your media, you have autonomy of your body and your decisions, you have agency over your family, you have intellect and prudence over your information and the way that you learn and what you learn is some of the greatest wealth that we can have. The people out there right now who don't have a TV in their living room, but they have a box of dirt, and every night the family sits down to learn potting and farming on a very minimal level, they're acquiring skills that's going to take them way farther, because as soon as land acquisition goes down somewhere and they can buy it, guess what? They're now participating in the same market that Bill Gates is participating in. He's not watching this stuff that's happening on the news in droves. He's out buying organic, healthy land that's utilized for growing and farming. And do you know why he's doing that? Because there's going to be a scarcity of that in the future. But he will still be able to have real fruits and vegetables and be able to raise healthy cattle when the rest of the world is eating fake fruit and fake meat. There's a strategy to wealth. There's a strategy, and we're being conditioned to be poor by way of being lazy, microwave society, and miseducation about what wealth really is, and wealth is not rich. Like
Mm,
wealth is not the same thing as rich. But if everybody's chasing money, something that, by the way, is created, and as we can see, there have been attempts to change what it is being used. They're not even utilizing the art of making more pennies. They're in circulation
mhm.
for now, but they're not making more, which
Right,
tells you
right,
that a thing can be started, a thing can be stopped. And when you become fully
right.
dependent on that thing, what do you do when it no longer has value? And that's the question that people, society, working class, high social media absorbing society is not asking themselves about money and attention. Because in the
Mm,
end, time and information is going to win.
mhm,
Time and
mhm,
information is going to win. You watch my smoke. Watch my smoke.
mhm.
And I don't think it's because we are being fooled or victimized. I think people don't take things seriously enough. And I think they're so busy chasing a dollar and chasing attention that they are not seeking their time and their attention or protecting them in ways that ensure that those things don't lose their value.
Right, right. No, that's real. That's real. And the part of me wants to do this. So let's just pause for a second. Let's just pause for a second because, to your point, it was crossing my mind just recently. I want to say even yesterday about, the various forms of wealth that are undermined, that are not discussed, in a number of ways. To your point, there's a part of connection. You know what I mean? Even what you were bringing up earlier around social media and how the algorithms and stuff, and by some means are serving to pull us apart. And at some point, there are going to be those folks who go, we're about to take it back. We're about to take it back to the quote unquote the old school and really recognize not only the importance of being connected, but what we've lost as a result of being so connected via the internet and not being connected in person, and the various ramifications that that has had. But at the end of the day, having those relationships, having relationships with our significant others, relationships with our loved ones, and finding ways to spend that time. It even makes me think about the importance of the event space as well as the concert space and how important it is, not just from a standpoint of like, it's a great space to make money in, but also like literally important to go to concerts, to go to event spaces, to meet people face to face, because it's so easy to be content with what our phones offer us, what our laptops offer us, and how we can, you know, eventually lose so much touch with people that we find ourselves more lonely than we expect to be and
Mhm.
more isolated than we actually even recognize.
I mean, I agree with you, and I think also there's a big opportunity for the people who hold those spaces, and the entertainers that we want to see and we glean from, to do things in real time that aren't necessarily as media controlled. I mean, imagine if every artist performing in the Bay Area from now throughout the duration of the Alameda County Reparations Commission were to just mention, hey, y'all know there's a fight to make sure that Black people get compensated for the hundreds and hundreds of years of mistreatment that is still going on today through the prison industrial complex and the preschool to prison pipeline. Y'all know that exists, right? So when you leave this concert, make sure you log on, make sure you tap in, make sure that the next John Beam has a Black owned union or a sports owned a sports infused union, to make sure that if something happens to him, like if something happened to a firefighter or a policeman, we can help their families, right? Like there's a
Mhm.
really big opportunity through mass media absorption, and like to your point, the desire for us to still connect in person, for us to move the needle in ways that serve us. And I think in particularly in revolutionary cities like Oakland, like Chicago, like Detroit, like Atlanta, where you have these ongoing conversations about things like our kids and their safety and going to school, right? With regards to violence, conversations about our local heroes and leaders being taken out, and then they get their flowers later, like with Coach Beam, like with the reparations movement. There's a lot of opportunity for us to gain traction, but we have to, again, be mindful of our time and our information, and not be fooled to think that money is the treasure, because money is just a tool, right? Like, I'm gonna get money. I'm gonna tell you to get money, diversify your assets, invest in Netflix while it's down. Please, y'all, invest in Netflix while it's down. I promise you, like, you're gonna win. Do it now. Don't listen to those people. Like, diversify your assets, make long-term plans, get flexible college education funds for your kids. If you don't know what that is, it's not a Coverdale. Make sure that you are investing in things like annuities and IULs instead of putting your money into a 401k. Get things that help you make money, because the money is the tool. The money is not the treasure. This is how you take back your time so that you can gain better information, so you can be present at the concert in peace with your nice brim hat, and you could connect with people. But if we're so busy trying to tap into the latest fast fashion, what happened on the news, I mean, like, we missed the boat. Everybody's talking about this major divorce that just happened between this supposed power couple of Atlanta, Black woman, super famous, married a guy some people love and some don't. I saw that headline and I immediately was like, no, my algorithm's not about to be full of this conversation. So what did I start doing? I started Googling, how does she make her wealth? What are her most wealth income generating vehicles? How does she give money back? How does she help community? What projects does she most typically engage in? Right? How has she beat some of the odds as a woman with her demographics and dynamics? And then I put up a post that was like, hey, say what you want, but sis removes beneficiaries, minimizes tax liability, and build and continuously like builds her assets. Like, we have to spin the ongoing narrative, right? And a lot of that happens in person. So to connect that back to what you said, a lot of that can happen in person, but again, we have to all take it more seriously. I mean, you see stuff like this documentary, and it should make people really think about how we pay attention and what we pay attention to. Like, really, really think about it, you know?
And engage in that battle internally necessary to regain our attention, right? Regain our time and go, this is what I want to watch. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to focus on, because it demands that, you know, again, not just highlighting that particular documentary, but, you know, everything that is happening on our phones and laptops and so forth. It is stealing from us in ways that sometimes we're not aware of because we want to watch it. But at the end of the day, if we actually had no intentions or plans to watch some of the things we're watching, engage in some of the things that we're engaging in, we start to recognize, like, man, I'm actually giving away time I have no plans to give away. I'm giving things energy that I had no plans to give to. And now I'm, certain things are suffering, right? My relationships, it could be, the time that I wanted to spend on studying, the time that I wanted to spend on, researching or spend time with other people. I'm finding myself being like, man, did y'all see? Did y'all see this? This is what's got my attention. But I do want to segue, therefore, into the event as it relates to the importance of events, and the event that we have planned for April, because, part of the heart behind it and heart behind events, it has always been the power of making connections with folks, the power of building new relationships, the power of continuing certain relationships as well, because at the end of the day, what we have, what we know, what we understand, it has more power when we get to do this with other folks, when we get to talk about some of the things that we know and understand and implement with others, such that they can get that information or they can share that information eventually as well, because it has been shared in a space where, they got to see these faces, they got to see the people that they recognize and or relate to. And so, without further ado, there's a part of me that wants us to share some poetry. So part of the very first time that I encountered and ran into Natrice was at a space where we were there to create poetry and put on a show. And I'm like, yo, this stuff is so powerful. You know what I mean? Not just the art form, but also the power that is waged, right, when we're just speaking from the stage, from the mic, however creative, however deep our stories are, personal and so forth. And so I definitely want to just give us that time to, one, tie into the whole fact that we're doing this event in April with the fact that it's going to be centering in and uplifting poetry in our relationship to it all, because this is our culture. Just like if we had a hip hop concert and had rappers, the idea is to not just have it be entertainment or fun, but for it to also have all of these elements that uplift and support and elevate the people that are present. And so how should we proceed, Natrice?
Well, so I feel like we definitely should jump into some poetry. One connecting point that I do want to make is on the heels of talking about live engagement, how the event that we're planning does blend community wealth building and poetry in a very creative manner, is that these in-person connection opportunities are so important, because one of the things that happens with a lot of this digital media absorption is that people isolate and they settle into spaces that are not necessarily healthy. One of my dearest friends, who I actually just shared a poem about the other day, is someone who utilized like heavy deep diving into social media, conspiracy theories, and just all kinds of digital information as a way to stay locked up. And so one of the lines in the piece that you actually referred to was, "Not saving you was the permission I needed to have to save myself." And I think a big part of what that entails is like staying tuned in to doing the work that she would always encourage me to do, which is to hold spaces like what we're holding. And she would often say, like, the only time I get out is like when I'm coming to one of your events, or when you were hosting open mic every week and running poetry houses. It was the only time that I was able to unsilo and like peel back from the layers of like depression and angst and sickness that just hovered over me. And so shout out to TLW. Man, that's my girl. And when we talk about the intersectionality of poetry, mental health, community, and wealth building, I think is heavily connected. She also worked in finance. So it's just another example of how all these things go together, right? And so, yeah, I definitely think it's time to dig into some poetry. Of course, because the event that we are having focuses on the intersectionality of telling our stories to build wealth and the power of wealth building through communal and independent action taking. I have a poem that's going to focus on that frame of mind. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you to decide what we do, how we move. I think it's a great moment, though. Let's get into some poems.
Word. So I'll do one. I did want to respond to the line you had just mentioned, but I'll wait towards the end or after this part, because that line hit me hard. It definitely relates to my story. But this I just wrote kind of again in anticipation of not only the podcast, but also just the event. And so I'm definitely thinking, okay, getting people out, people celebrating the fact that we have this opportunity to not just talk about, not just do poetry, or not just do talk about financial literacy, but to do both. And so this is about that in particular. And it goes, and the bars are abundant, an abundance of bars on abundance. The bars, a bunch of conundrums come from us on funding, on income becoming our fuel as we uplift the public from the boulevard to Wall Street until we come up on the stars. These bars, not for our own consumption. The presumption is all we want are whips and drip for the luncheon. But this prosperity is about the posterity with clarity, not charity, not go broke on the ropes, but row, row, row your boat gently down these streams, merrily, merrily, merrily. Yada da mean. Civil rights and civil rights. These brothers and sisters write contracts, checks, and instructions on how to get out of debt, how to stop saving and invest, how to cop properties, watch stocks and leaps, options, REITs, futures, and ETFs. Let's not forget the need for poetry and our financial literacy. Because what is house flipping but wordplay? Using the money from the purchase to purchase more. Now you're making money from what you purchased before. So your profits purchase property. Now your HELOCs open doors with no keys involved, just credit. Don't forget to keep the score. Wait. No more breeding without bread. No more GoFundMe's for final expenses for the dead. No more life insurance policies without life. You can't expect to get good rates if you don't work out or eat right. This is wealth and wellness. Okay, that's the end of the piece right there. But one thing I just wanted to hit on with that last part was,
let's clap you up. Let's clap you up.
Thank you. One of the things that hit me, when I first signed up for a life insurance policy, and I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna come and do, get your blood sample and stuff like that. And I was like, well, good thing I work out, because I didn't start working out because of the life insurance policy. Amen. Right. I started working out before it, but it hit me like there have, if you will, tiers. And it's like, well, if you're premium, you get this rate because you're this tall, you weigh this much, you don't smoke, you're not, you don't have a motorcycle, so you're not risking your life every time you go go to work. All of these things matter, but I was living, if you will, a healthy and a safe life at the time. But I promise you, I had a motorcycle, right? I promise you, there were times in years where I could be like, yo, I'm skinny, but I'm not working out. Like I'm thin, but it's not on purpose, right? This is just what happened, when I was born. And so all that to say is that even in that instance around life insurance, there has to be more conversation upon the life parts, only because it goes, yes, I'm glad that you got it. Like, let's just start there, get some. But if you improve your health, you could have a cheaper rate, right? If you stop some of the unhealthy habits that would, whether it's the alcohol consumption, whether it's the smoking, right? These types of things will add to the money you can save for a more expensive policy that can help your family in the event of your death. And again, what you mentioned with IULs in the event of whatever happens right before you pass away. And so with all that to say is that that's something that I wanted to make sure to hit on, because, when I'm hearing about life insurance, normally I'm hearing about the prices, I'm hearing about what you can cover, how much you're going to get, versus you working out, right? You ain't smoking, right? Let's make sure we put let's handle those things before we get this life insurance policy, because you're going to have some better rates.
Yep. Facts. Ask me and I'll tell you the truth. If you don't ask me, I'm still not going to tell you a lie. The most important form of wealth building is to take care of ourselves. I mean, there are 80 and 90-year-old people, even 100-year-old people, who are able to live off of the land. They're able to farm. They're able to live in places that have more natural surroundings. They're able to eat the food that is indigenous to the land because they've kept themselves healthy. And because they keep themselves healthy, they're always kind of like encompassed or enveloped in environments where that's the norm and where those resources are more prevalent than other things like microwaves or microwave food. So it goes hand in hand, right? Again, the most valuable assets that we can use right now to create generational wealth are time and information. Money is a tool, people. Money is a tool. And yes, I tell people, get a lot of this tool. Yes, I help people acquire this tool. You come to me and I'm going to run you through the process to see how much of this tool we can help you get and how we can make your money make money over time so you could be your own bank. However, a big part of that conversation is going to be, are you eating well? Are you working out? How are you taking care of yourself? And what are you doing in real time to make sure that you are living a healthy life? I'm not trying to help you just cover people to live better in your death. Like, you should live a healthy life and be able to use the money as a tool to do more things in your life that help humanity, right? But you need time and information. Right. So we got to be more mindful about how we keep our treasure chests and what we consider a treasure. And so in that same vein, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it lit, literally, with some writing about financial wealth building culture and just the ongoing movement to make sure that we know we are beyond worthy. I have 2 different pieces I'm toggling between. So I'm going to give you 2 titles and you get to pick which one I share. One is called Classes in Session, and the other one is Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. So I'll let you pick.
That is wrong. It's so scandalous. I imagine when people are like, pick one, Beyonce, Mariah Carey. It's like, get out.
I mean, we can't even play that game, but that is a good one. As soon as I said we can't even play that game, like it's not a challenge, immediately my mind went to war with itself. So I feel you.
You see what I mean? I have to try. Yeah, see, it's just not that simple. I'm gonna go with Classes in Session, even though I am not okay. I'm not okay with my decision. So
that's okay. Y'all come out and see us in April. Stay tuned so you can get the updates. One of the pieces I'll be performing is Cream. Cream, get the money, dollar bill, y'all. So y'all already know it's gonna have some hood connotation. It's gonna be urban-esque, but also intellectual. However, let's get into the piece that I actually already have up. So you were in perfect alignment, which is Classes in Session.
Word.
Because one day my student asked me, Miss Spicer, how come you teach adults and kids? And I told him the same way, because sometimes it takes a few times to apply what we already heard. And he said, well, how would you know? I said, it's just like how you keep letting that bully punk you simply because his fear doesn't show. See, sometimes false evidence appears as real and the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But this isn't a ploy. Isn't a scripted cinema plot. The monkey on your back is in fact that you're constantly under attack from losing everything you've got, whether it's paying for get around gas or keeping the hot water cornbread stock, stocking flour and baking soda into hideaway rocks, stocking stuffings in her stuffing, because stocking stuff for holidays doesn't stop. On the go for coins. We be on the go on the clock, like tick, tock, tick, talk on cam ticked off, tip so small, so now it's back to tick tock. We be broken. And in the broke ends, I got tired and broke in the broken end of the vortex and stimulated my inner cortex. See, we be trending on Forex, but don't know the APY of trending on FX. They making money on our reality and millions on our affects because we rather buy depreciating distractions than to invest in long-term assets. They could sell us our dreams. And the only question we would ask next is, ooh, that's nice. How much is it after you add tax? We got to add up the facts. The fact of life is that if you don't learn how to get to the front, you'll end up in the back. And in the back ain't where it's bad, but we be living in a space of lack. Making all of this money to buy all of this stuff, but no sense of freedom or how to buy our way out. Now, how do you make sense of that? Insanity is doing the same thing in the same way repeatedly and expecting different results. The opposite of immediate gratification is gratitude for waiting to get what you want. See, pain is a communicator. Loss is a byproduct of poor communication. The key to locking in a good portfolio is balancing your spendings with your savings, or trading fun for focus in case you needed it in translation. In order to minimize my risk of signals getting mixed, I also avoid indebting myself to others' problems and extending credit without accreditation. That's
Mm.
why I'm in recovery, fam. Detoxing from overspending and compensating with glam. Now I'm gonna still be the jazzy lady that I am, but I've learned more crafting, cost cutting, deal hustling, and smart budgeting than the Marlboro man. Made more deals than Allah with the store. We on a tuna fish budget towards the opposite of poor. But let's start with the basics.
Mm.
Finance management and income replacement. After we talk about how to leverage your accounts with the banking, while we at it, pay off them pink slips. See, we got to do better collectively.
Mm.
And also, y'all got to learn how to listen and take action respectfully.
Let's give it up. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. Listen. Again, part of me is like, oh, I can't wait. I was like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Again, something that's been on my mind for so long, and I'm just like, I know that we can use our gifts to draw in more attention around some of the most important things that we can put our attention to, and you mentioned the importance of fun, focus over fun, and we were literally talking about fun this week because our son is, in ninth grade and it's finals week. However, the partners are kicking it after school, and his mom is like, it is finals week. So while it is attractive to have fun, you might want to go back home and you make sure you hit them bugs to get a little bit more prepared for the next ones that are coming. And that desire or temptation to have fun is always going to be there, especially over the focus, especially over the things that we need. And so again, thanks for sharing that. Again, so juiced.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share. And yes, trade fun for focus early on, because if you pay attention and use your time to get information, then you can spend more time later being on fun and on vacation. And I promise you, the money will become a tool that you can use to build your own series of treasurable moments. Stay focused. Like, it gets greater later. I wish I had to listen to this advice when I was super young, or had it said more frequently, because I would have stayed focused and gotten to the bag real quickly. And y'all would see me being a big old kid, highly irresponsible right now. Every day, as often as possible. I'd be on a vacation. I'd be giving money away. I'd be working, like doing projects, big chilling. Like, y'all would just be like, this makes no sense how she's doing nothing.
Right. Kicking it. Is it a Tuesday? Why she wait?
And grown up kicking it is way better. It's way better than, I'm telling you, kids, trade your kid kicking it for your grown up shenanigans. It gets so much greater later, over 21, over 25.
Right.
Even. Like, you hit 30, dirty 30s.
Right.
If dirty 30s would be a whole different story. Had I used the focus teens and the early man.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's real. And honestly, it's the hardest to do that at that time. And so, doing it early, getting some of these things in motion early is so hard, because it's everybody around you is like, we about to go to here, we about to go there. What you trying to do? Oh, you so boring. Oh, you ain't no fun. I'm sure it is the hardest time to go, let me pull back. But if you could find a way, to lock in early, it'll definitely mean, especially because 40 and 50 and 60 isn't like necessarily the end. You might still be around at 70 and 80 and 90. And so you got way more time to have fun than just in your 20s. Now, 20 fun is a special fun because your hormones are crazy. But there's still a lot more life to live.
But right? But I hear that hormones and life goes crazy again between the 40s and 50s. So I'm just saying, even if you're the person who's like, I'm not no teeny bopper, I'm grown, I'm not teen 20, 30, I'm 40, 50, or pushing 60. Still get on track now. Lock in for the next 10 years, and you can take the next 20 years off and cat off. Like
Mhm.
use your social media. Google some of these late mature. There are some grandmothers and grandfathers, great grandmothers and great grandfathers who are running 5-mile marathons like monthly,
Indeed.
traveling across the world, making. There's this one couple who makes romantic videos, and I swear they're in like their 70s, and she's out here with her little
Mhm.
lace top chiffon, talking about because my husband loved me. I'm like, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, like you just need to lock
That's
in.
real.
Lock
That's
in now.
real.
Whatever age you are, it's never too late to make those changes. And if you lock in and you take our advice to eat healthy, and be well, you can extend how much time you have left ahead of you so you can have
Yeah.
more shenanigans.
More shenanigans. Right, right, right. So yes, one again, thank you so much for showing up today. Through the technical difficulties, power outage, which is crazy. And again, connecting. And again, what we'll be doing, we're making sure to share our stuff on both of our platforms, so that you guys can be prepared, aware once we start locking in the dates and the times and the services and the people that'll be there. But we want to make sure that, yeah, you guys stay just abreast of how it's all coming together, and what to also look for in the future, because this will not be the last one. This will be dope, and we'll be doing it for some time to come. So yeah, you ready to wrap it up? Are you good on their end?
I'm good. I'm great. I just want y'all to follow us sooner than late. Make sure that you lock in for Social Good. Keep tuned in to the two people helping hack the hood. We bring you wealth and wellness tips, tactics, tools, and teachable moments. Catch us on each of our platforms. Make sure you follow us across all the various rooms, because you got to get in the room in order to have a seat at the table. So go ahead and follow us when you are able. We will see you soon. And I personally will see you at the top.